Jordan Moorhead. How you doing?
Doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing awesome, man. I appreciate you being on the show.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. Where are you calling us from today?
So I'm actually currently living in Minneapolis, Minnesota, but at the current time, I'm in Austin, Texas, in a house that I am purchasing. So I'm about 10 days out from the close, not even that, 8 days out from the close,
Nice.
and hope to have this as an Airbnb and short-term rental here soon.
Oh, great, man. Yeah, that's something that we haven't necessarily touched on here on the show, but Airbnb, that sounds like a pretty interesting topic. So, why
Yeah,
don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about your background and why real estate? You know, how'd you get started? And I know you have a background also in fitness, the fitness
yeah,
industry. So, tell us a little bit about that, and tell us a little bit about your company, and then transition over to real estate.
absolutely. So real estate, I guess I've always been interested in real estate. There wasn't as far back as I could remember, I've got a buddy who's investing too, and we've been kind of investing alongside ever since. We've never partnered, but we'd bounce ideas off each other. And we thought it was interesting in our early teens. So the best we can remember, it was like 13 or 14 that we were talking about
Wow, that far back?
buying rental homes. Yeah, and I don't know why two younger teens thought that was a good idea, but it just made sense to us that,
Well, it was definitely a great idea, that's for sure.
yeah. And he's been actually investing longer than I have, but beyond that, I've always been into small business and I've always been interested in building businesses and building streams of income. I'm not necessarily building passive income to quit my job or to stop working. I like working. I only do stuff that interests me, so I don't want to quit. But as far as my background in the recent future, I started a small fitness business in 2011, maybe 2012. And I've been growing that ever since. We've got a small team now. We've got 3 trainers and some admin staff. We actually have like a contracted marketing guy too that does a lot of that stuff. So, that started with just me. I was actually washing dishes at an overnight diner,
Oh,
and I
wow.
was starting to train people during the day. I was also delivering food out of my 95 Ford Contour. So I was
Sacrifices, man. Those are sacrifices there. You're washing dishes and we said 94 Ford Contour.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
was delivering
That's a,
food
that's a
too.
major
So
sacrifice here.
yeah, and the furthest education I have is I have some college under my belt, but the only degree I have is a GED. So I'm not highly educated, and the only reason I kind of emphasize that is because if I can do any of this stuff, everybody else can.
Yes,
Um,
and I love that because I think there's a lot of people that get that bug. You know, it's like you want to get into it, but but you're afraid.
yeah,
You feel like you're not educated enough. You're gonna be in the same field with a bunch of guys that have PhDs in real estate. It's like you really
oh
don't
yeah,
have to have that. Like if
no,
you have a basic understanding of it, obviously you got to have a lot of different pieces with it, right? But you just got to take action, really. More than anything, and learn a little bit and then
absolutely.
take action. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, how I got started. Obviously, I had a fitness business. I was self-employed, so after a while, I was able to get just traditional financing. And my first investment property was a duplex in Northeast Minneapolis, which was in pretty bad shape and just needed some, general cosmetic work, some exterior work. I fixed that up and I started living for free. And that's when I'd always known real estate investing was a good idea, but I was able to actually see and feel and understand the concepts then, and I learned a lot really quickly.
So what is
And
that term for that? We usually call it house hacking, right? Where
yeah, yep. House hacking.
yeah. So why don't you tell the listeners, Commit to Wealth Nation, tell them what that means. What does it mean exactly? The house hack something.
So house hacking and how I describe it might be, some people say it has to be multifamily. I think that's probably the best way to go is to at least have 2 units to rent out, but it doesn't even have to be that. House hacking is just buying a property, living in it, and renting out the areas that you're not using. So with the duplex, that's very simple. You're renting out the other unit, and maybe you're renting out the other rooms in your unit too. I try to maximize the spaces I can rent. So I'm comfortable having people there when I'm not there. I'm not there right now. I'm in Austin, Texas. So there's 2 people in my unit renting out rooms on Airbnb. There's also people upstairs that are long-term tenants paying rent. And that way I actually get just as good of cash flow on it as you would as a normal rental. So the normal rental gross income should be about $2,400 a month. I average about that or a little more with the Airbnb and long term.
Yeah, that's a fantastic way to do it. I know buddies that also use that same method, that strategy, and Airbnb it really is awesome. I mean, there's other guys that take it to a different level. They don't even own the real estate, and they're they have a business doing nothing but Airbnb. But yeah, just being able to rent the rooms. I mean, that's awesome. That's another source of passive income. You're not there right now. You just mentioned you're in Austin, and it's still making you money. They don't have to be there. They don't have to sign a 1-year contract. So that's the beauty of it. Yeah.
I never met the guys. I never let them in. I've had roommates in there before too, but I'm 29, so I'm still young enough to pull that off. But yeah, these guys came in through a lockbox. They messaged me the night before. I had a cleaning lady come in and change the sheets. I've been down here for a month, so it's not like that I've been there to handle anything. A lot of times I never see these guys. I never meet them. I never see them. Even when they're there a lot, I don't see them. So, I might see them once or twice in a week stay. I'm busy.
So how do you make sure that these tenants are good? Is it Airbnb screening process? Is that what you use, or do you have a separate screening process that you use to be able to make sure that these tenants are going to be good and qualified, and they're not going to do anything that they're not supposed to be doing on your property?
Yep. So I do have some criteria that I've set for really with my regular tenants. Obviously, I do the credit background, all that kind of stuff. But Airbnb is a little quicker, and you're not able to do that. So if they have a lot of reviews on Airbnb and I can see they're good, I'm still going to do this. But I always ask them why they're coming, what they're doing there. If they have any questions for me, I just want to figure out why they're there. If there's like a non-descriptive reason of why they're there, I just need somewhere to stay.
That might be a red flag, right?
Yeah, because in my experience, I've never had any bad experiences where anybody's been a real issue, but I've had some people just be kind of minorly annoying and they're always locals. I'll tell you this, they're always local people that'll just come in there for a day or two and they don't have a good reason of why they need somewhere to stay, or it always sounds like a bullshit reason. Hey, I'm moving and I need to blah, 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 or my power's out. You don't get any good reason. There is no good reasons like those. It's always, I just need somewhere to crash for a few nights. And those are the weird people. Like I said, there's never been any problems. So although I've had some odd ducks in there, I've really never had any issues, and I've never had any problems with anyone. I've never had any issues. The only issues have been on my own side, where the property wasn't as clean as it should have been, or it wasn't fixed up. We were in the middle of a remodel for way too long, and I got some bad reviews because of that. But Airbnb is pretty easy to do. Everybody's worried about having somebody else in your house. They protect you pretty well. If you protect yourself by screening them just a little bit beforehand, it's usually pretty good. I'm not saying that I probably won't eventually have a bad experience, because I've been doing it for a couple of years already and haven't. At some point in time, I'm sure I'll have somebody that I don't like.
Yeah, I think for anybody that wants to get into real estate, the longer that you're in the game, the higher the chance that something's going to happen. And, like for yourself, nothing has happened, and that's a good thing. But if you plan on being in this game for a good while, then chances are something is going to happen, and hopefully something small, right? But it's going to be something that you learn from, and because it's never perfect. It's just like anything else. It's never going to be perfect, and so we're not trying to be here to tell you, do it. It's the best thing. It is great. There's tons of advantages to it, but you're going to get that one person that's going to be like, oh my God, why did I even do this? Why did I even get into real estate?
Yeah. I've had long-term tenants that have been a headache. I inherited 6 tenants in a 6-plex that I bought, and most of them were great, and most of them are still in there actually, and just signed new leases to stay with us for another year. One wasn't necessarily an issue until they moved out. They didn't tell us they moved out. They threw their couch and their TV off the balcony. They just trashed the place. It was already kind of trashed, so we weren't too upset because we were going to remodel it anyway. But I think understanding that real estate we call it passive investing, and there's passive income, and there's levels of real estate investing. You could be a truly passive investor and invest in other people's deals, and that's about as passive as you can get. But if you're going to buy and operate rental properties, that's
There's nothing
pretty
passive
active.
about that.
No, not at
There's
all.
nothing passive at all about that.
And it's
Even
not a lot of work, but it's work.
yeah, even if it's not like you're not like directly managing it, you still got to oversee the manager, you know.
Oh yeah.
And if it's even if it's not like next to you, or you're like investing like long term somewhere else,
Yep.
there's still work involved, you know. And so
Yeah.
that's one thing, you know, everybody has to realize, you know, it's like I said earlier, it's great benefits, but yeah, there, like anything else, is there's work and but it's a very rewarding career, you know, to
Oh
get
yeah.
into. Yeah.
Especially over the long run, it's very rewarding. And property managers are great, but it's not a just give them the keys and forget about it type of thing. I had to fire one recently, and they weren't doing much, and they were charging high fees, and once you think about it, they don't make a lot of money on like, let's say you have a single family house that makes you $1,300 a month, and they charge 10%. They're making $130 a month to manage your property, which if they spend a few hours on it is not a lot of money. So while it's a big chunk of your cash flow, for them it's really minuscule. And once you get above a certain number of units, I think that you can find good property management. And I think you still can on the smaller stuff, but you're just not paying them a lot, so you can't expect them to really care about your property the way you do.
Exactly. Those are great points. And I think a lot of people that get into the game, they want the property management company to be perfect on every single
No.
aspect. And it doesn't work like that. And you just mentioned that you only, on $1,000 property, if you're getting 10%, if they're getting 10%, then they're getting $100, you know,
Yeah.
for the entire month. And they have to deal with all these calls, and then they have to like be there and drive there and deal with
Yeah.
repairs. And it's just a lot of different things, you know. So um, how are you finding these properties? I know a lot of the people, a lot of listeners that may not know about the creative ways, and they kind of just know about, you know, finding a property on the MLS. Is that the way you're doing it as well, or how are you finding?
Yeah, so I'm a licensed real estate agent in Minneapolis. I work with Keller Williams in Roseville, which is smack in between St. Paul and Minneapolis. I found most of the stuff that I've bought off the MLS. The one I'm in right now that I'm buying, I actually, weirdly enough, was Airbnb-ing it for this month, liked the place, and
Right.
asked the guy if he wanted to sell. I've got a mobile home park under contract in North Dakota that I found on Craigslist.
Oh
Uh,
wow. So
yeah,
wait, so before you go any further, you said you asked the guy if he was willing to sell, if he wanted to sell, and then you
yeah,
proceeded with buying it. So
yeah,
see, that's the kind of things that I like to tell everybody is like, you have to ask. If you
yeah,
don't ask it, the answer is always no. And what you did right there is you actually asked them, hey, are you interested in selling? You know what? Well, maybe I am. And then you
yeah.
proceed with that, right? And then
Oh, yeah.
your next deal was a Craigslist. I mean, who would have thought that Craigslist, out of all places, you know, you'll be able to find a mobile home park? Is that what you said you found, right?
Yeah, mobile home park. You just got to look anywhere and everywhere. It and just calling people too. I actually have a listing in Minneapolis. It's an 11 unit apartment building, and I just reached out to the lady and asked if she'd be willing to sell, and it turns out she definitely was, and I think we have an offer coming later today for it. But you really never know, and the worst thing people can say is no. I think a lot of people, when I talk to people about it, hey, oh, I'd love to buy that place. Well, if you ask, well, they're not selling. I don't think they'd want to, and they talk themselves out of calling them and asking. And no one's ever gotten mad at me for calling and asking, hey, would you be willing to sell your place? It's a yes or no answer. Yes, no. Um, I think a lot of people go after the low hanging fruit, or they call for sale by owners on Zillow, which is a great way to do things. You can do that all day and get a lot of great results, but everybody's calling those guys. So if you're calling them two, you're one of 10. That's the point where you might get somebody that's irritated, and that's it's still not a big deal. You're not hurting anybody. But if you're calling somebody that's actually not on the market and just asking them, hey, would you like to sell? You never know. They may have some sort of trauma going on in their life, whether they need cash or they need to move or they can't manage the property anymore. And that call might take them out of a lot of pain. And that's kind of the situation here with this thing. This guy just didn't want to deal with it anymore, and he's trying to move. So,
yeah, and the thing the take away from there is situations always change, right?
Oh yeah.
So even if you call them right now, what's the worst that can happen? Like you said earlier, what's the worst that can happen? It's either going to be a yes or a no. They're not going to come up here and just choke you, right? So it's either going to be a yes or a no. And if they say no, okay, that's not a problem. You know what? Is it okay if I follow up with you in a few months from now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just like that. And then most of the time they're going to say, yeah, why not? So you follow up with them, and it's like, you know what? Actually, this is a good time to sell because this happened or that happened, right? So you got to be consistent with it. Things don't just come to you. You have to go out there and get them. And so, no, I love that you mentioned that.
Yeah. And the sixplex I recently bought, there's 3 others right around it that the guy might be willing to sell, and I follow up with him every few months, just saying, hey, this is how it's going with the one you just sold me. These are the things I've done, and it's fully occupied. We got everybody signed on your leases. Let me know. I just keep it in, and I'm just telling him, hey, this is how it's going. And also being a little younger, I think gives me an advantage with calling these older guys, because they like to see usually that a younger guy is trying to do the same stuff they did or they've done. And you never know, maybe they had a kid, they tried to get to do it and wasn't doing it. And I ran into that situation with this guy. He tried to pass them on to his kids. They didn't want anything to do with them. So you just never know where you're going to step in and have an opportunity, but you're absolutely not going to find opportunities if you don't ask.
Love that.
It amazes me how many people search Zillow every day and haven't contacted an agent to set up just an MLS search for them. It's not a big deal to ask an agent to set you up a search. You and I both know we'd set that thing up in 3 or 5 minutes and actively keep an eye out for somebody if they're looking for something. Yeah,
I love that. Deal. I love that. And what's the quote? There's a quote that I like saying all the time is, you got to keep knocking. Eventually the door's going to open. Just keep knocking and it will open eventually.
Oh yeah.
Let's talk about your mobile home park. How did you find? I mean, you mentioned it was a Craigslist, but how did you even think about that? And how did you go from what your properties that you have now to a mobile home park?
So all the stuff I actually have now would be considered affordable housing, or this Airbnb rental, probably not. But the other stuff I have would be, I would call it Class C housing. And I'm not interested in the higher end stuff because I don't think that it's going to be the safest place to be if there's any sort of market correction. And I also just don't like the cash flow on that. I know that you can make great money doing it, but I've just never been interested in it. So it wasn't a huge step to look into that from looking at C-class apartments or small multifamily type stuff. And the interesting thing about mobile home parks to me is that you don't always necessarily have to own anything but the land. So you might own the land and rent the land to the people that are occupying the land. Now you're going to have to keep up with the land, and you're going to have to make sure that all the utilities are working and that they're paying their lot rents and stuff like that. But and keep in mind, I'm no expert on this. I don't own one yet. I just got one under contract today.
Oh wait, that's today?
Today, wow. Yeah, this morning.
Congratulations.
So I'm pretty excited. But it's just, I think there's a severe shorting of affordable housing, and I think that people that are working class people are being pushed out of places to live that are affordable and decent. And part of what I want to do is create nice places for people to live that are affordable. So obviously, there's a limit on that. You can't put granite countertops everywhere, but you can make them decent to live in. We just redid an apartment for a couple grand and it looks great. And the people were really excited to live there. They're getting a reasonable market rent, and they're not stretching to live there each month. And I do a 3 times rent requirement for all my rentals. So if you don't make at least 3 times the rent, I won't rent to you. It's not a personal thing. I just don't want people to feel pressured to pay their rent. You hear people paying 50 or 60% of their income in rent, and that's ridiculous. We shouldn't be in a society like that. At least I don't think so. Everybody's free to make their own choices to rent those places, but I just want to provide affordable housing for people that are looking for reasonable housing.
Got it. And I love that. And mobile homes usually are pretty affordable for folks.
Yep.
And so Did you mention the purchase price on that? Tell us about the purchase price and how many units or how many spots that is, and kind of walk us through that a little bit.
So this is an interesting one, and I had to talk to a few people about this before I got it under contract. But it is a 45 pad home, but 9 of the 20 mobile home pads are occupied, and 25 of those pads are RV only pads.
Okay.
So
it's a little mix there, huh?
It's a little mix, and it's something I'm a little more unfamiliar with than just the mobile homes. I don't know a ton about mobile home parks, but I've been kind of researching them and talking to people for the past year or so. And with the RV stuff, I really just don't know anything except that they're transient and could be gone at any moment because they have a motor and wheels attached to them, where the mobile homes are kind of hard to move.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's 45 pads. 9 out of the 20 pads are occupied, but all of those mobile homes that are there are occupied. So I obviously have to do due diligence, and I'm going to start doing that right now. From what she says, whenever she has a mobile home on a pad, it's occupied, but she just has 11 free pads right now. So the next steps are figuring out how I could get more mobile homes in there, how much that would cost. If in fact that there is 100% occupancy, it's just going to be a process. I'm going to have to go check it out. I'm going to have to call the parks around it. I'm going to have to talk to other mobile home park owners in the area, mobile home park suppliers. I'm a big fan of doing your due diligence and just being, incredibly diligent about that and making sure you're finding out everything. You're verifying bank statements. You're verifying utility bills. You're actually verifying the rents. You're talking to people and say, hey, what do you pay here? And then because somebody might tell you, oh, the rent, and I had this happen with apartment building. Oh, they're paying $800 a month. Actually, it's $650. Oh, well, that's the possible rent they could be paying. You just got to verify everything and not be upset if you find any discrepancies. You just need to make sure that you find all those, plug it into whatever spreadsheet you're using or how you're evaluating them, and really make sure that everything's up to par. Because that's where you could really get hurt if you buy something and it's not what you thought it was. And I know tons of people that have done that, even though they've verified. So just the more you know, the better.
Yeah, like it's like this property that you have. You're learning more about it, right? But you're in the due diligence process right now, right? Because it's under contract. Yep. So you're checking out, make sure everything crosses. Your T's cross, your dot your I's, and
yep.
At the end of the day, if it doesn't work out as you had assumed, then you can still walk away, right? But
yeah,
the important part is that you have to do your homework and make sure that you don't proceed without knowing what you're getting yourself into. And so,
absolutely.
Yeah, that's great.
And same thing with this other place that I'm closing on here soon. I had him bring me bank statements, utility bills. I wanted to see the current leases he had on the place. You just got to see all that stuff. The sixplex I bought recently, all the leases were expired. They were there and there are people in them, but nobody was actually on a lease.
So they're like month to month, or is that what it was?
No, the leases were expired. They didn't have them.
So they didn't transfer over to month to month. They just expired and they stayed there.
No, that was the language in the lease. Although everybody thought they were on a month to month, the language in the lease said that the lease ends at this certain point in time. And there was a box to check that it goes month to month after that certain point in time. It wasn't checked. And per Kentucky law, I'm almost absolutely sure that they just roll over month to month after a term lease. But that there's no way that would have held up in court with the document saying that there was no month to month afterwards. So you just got to check all that stuff. And I
part of doing your due diligence, like you said. And you said you missed that?
I missed that. I looked at all the leases and saw it and didn't register that it wasn't checked. So the only reason I figured it out is because when I had to start sending it off to lenders for this next place, because they want to see all your leases always, and you know how it is when you're self-employed and have multiple streams of income, they want to see everything. It can be challenging and frustrating sometimes, but they said, hey, these leases are expired. And I said, oh, yeah. So luckily we had done such a good job of fixing the place up. We redid the common areas. We repainted all the balconies and decks. We took care of the landscaping. Everybody that was there wanted to stay. and we were able to fill the one vacant unit really quickly. We'd had somebody move out. We had 2 people move out really right when we bought the place. So it wasn't a big deal at all. And I think just by making it nice and showing the tenants there that, hey, we do care about this place and making it a nice place to live, it was really easy to have them sign leases again. You know, I did that all remotely too. I'm actually managing that place remotely right now. Just used Docusign, which is an electronic document signature system, and sent them all the leases. They signed, they came back. It was nice and easy.
Awesome. I love all the information you shared, and the key thing here, I think, is to get started whatever position you're in your life. Study it, learn it, and start. You went from your smaller properties to this mobile home park, and everything's possible, right?
Yeah.
So the key thing is to learn a little bit about it and take action. So yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and just it's really a mindset thing. And with the mobile home park just under contract, not closed, but you're going to do what you think you're able to do, and you're not going to do any more than that, and that's all you're ever going to do. But when you can change your mindset to think that, hey, anything is possible, your possibilities really are limitless. Until you can do that, a lot of people get stuck. Oh, I'm going to buy a single family or 2, or, hey, I'm just going to try to get a slightly better job, or whatever it is. And all those things are great. Having ambition to do anything is great. But until you can change your mindset and to match your ambitions, you're never going to get above that level. You're just going to stay there, and you're going to keep hitting that ceiling. And the best way I've done that, books are amazing. There's tons of great books out there. Stuff like, although some of them are probably more stories than truth, like Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That whole series is great. The One Thing, the Millionaire Real Estate Investor. There's just tons. There's you'll start reading them and you'll start finding more and more and more. But also just getting around people that have done this stuff too. I was at the Best Ever Real Estate Conference, I think 4 weeks ago now. But you meet a lot of these guys, and they're multimillionaires and control thousands of units, or maybe they just have 50 units or whatever, but they all started somewhere, and it's usually not as impressive as you think where they started. They bought a single family to start, or they bought a duplex, or they flipped a house, or whatever. Everybody starts at some entry level, and the people that are able to change their mindset and open themselves to new opportunities just keep moving forward.
Yes.
It's
Yes,
not
I
a
love
money
that.
thing, or it's not a
Right.
capability thing. I believe everybody's way more capable than they think they are. They
Yeah,
just haven't let themselves move forward.
I agree 100% on that. I think everybody's limited in their beliefs. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
they cap themselves at a point, and I don't think that every single one of us has reached our full potential, and it's
No.
because of your mindset, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
so your mindset has not just some of it; it has everything to do with it. If you open it up and you allow yourself to accept it, accept success at a
Yeah.
much greater level, then you'll get it. But you have to believe it yourself first.
Oh, yeah. And I'm sure I know I've gotten past a lot of places where I am in the past, but there's plenty of things that are unseen, I'm sure, that are still holding me back in many ways. I'm sure I pass up many opportunities or miss. I try to say yes to everything. If somebody asks me if I want to go to a conference, or if I want to talk to some people, or want to go meet a guy, I'll do anything. But I'm sure that there's stuff that I haven't seen yet that's holding me back, beliefs, or just way of thinking, or whatever it is, that I'll see in the past, and it's like, why was I just sitting in that one spot for so long?
Yeah. Yes, I love that. Yeah. Okay. Well, then let's shift gears a little bit, and we're gonna start our nuggets of wealth. And
All
so
right.
these are basically just questions that I ask every week to every guest. Are you ready for it?
All right. Yep.
Okay. So what is one key tip that you would give to those investors who are looking or looking to be investors, who are looking to scale up and reach a bigger level, such as yourself?
Uh, I, if you're not doing anything yet, just get started. Obviously, don't just go out and buy anything, but learn how to analyze a deal. Really, with websites like BiggerPockets and all those other resources out there now, it's pretty easy to figure out how to analyze a deal. Have some people that know more than you look over the first couple, so you know that you're putting the right amount for a water bill in, or that you're calculating capital expense and maintenance correctly. Don't be afraid to ask for help, but don't wait too long. I've talked to so many people that say, oh, here in 2 or 3 or 4 years, I'm going to invest, and I just want to have all this money to do it, or I want to do this and that. And it's not complicated. It doesn't take a lot of money. It just takes getting it done. I put $6,000 down on my first place. Even the sixplex I just bought, I put 15% down, and he wanted 25%, and the owner financed the whole place. But really, what I'm saying is, like, just stop waiting. Every time I've gone looking for a new property or a new opportunity, I've been ready for it to take a long time, and it hasn't taken very long at all. This mobile home park thing, I really didn't get on the ball until this best ever conference that I was just at. And I talked to a bunch of guys there more about mobile home parks. I had a lot of my questions answered, and they were basically saying the same thing: don't wait, just start going. And that's been 3 weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I already have somewhere under contract. So it's not that complicated. Don't hold yourself back. There is no perfect time. If you're interested in something, or you want to do a bigger deal, start looking at bigger deals. Start talking to people that do bigger deals. Start talking to brokers. Really do everything you have to do to get those bigger deals in front of you. Because just browsing LoopNet or whatever site isn't going to do it. Actually calling those people off of LoopNet, or calling people that you've met at local meetups, or getting on Craigslist or eBay. eBay actually has a lot of real estate on it. I just figured that out recently.
What? Yeah, I didn't know that either. So
yeah.
Okay, well, that's interesting.
eBay has real
Well, they
estate.
have like a buy it now and just $100,000, buy it now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, they do.
Okay.
But just move the chains forward a little bit. Like, it's not going to fall in your lap. You just got to get out there and start pushing. If you don't know something, ask somebody else. You're not going to figure too much out until you start actually seriously asking people about these deals.
Okay.
And save as much money as you can. Live frugally. You need money to get involved in real estate. You can do deals that are creative and put low money down, or have all that kind of stuff, but nobody's going to give you a deal for nothing. If you have no experience or no money or nothing to bring to the table, you're not going to get in. I'm sure some people do, but from my experience, the reason I've been able to get, I live for free. I save as much money as I can. I don't live lavishly at all. I have an older car that I paid off a really long time ago. I buy everything in cash. I don't have any credit card debt. You need to get your personal financial situation in order before you start getting into real estate. And I know people don't always like to hear that, but if your credit score is a 500 and you've got $10,000 in credit card debt, getting into real estate could be a disaster for you. It's not going to fix your situation necessarily. There's a chance it might help, but you've got some underlying stuff going on that needs to be dealt with from a mental standpoint before you can get into that. It's just, if you own a rental and you can't help yourself but spend every dollar that the thing makes. I've had friends that have had rentals taken back because of that.
Oh man!
Before they know it, I had a buddy, both of his furnaces went out. He had to have all the HVAC redone, and he was making great cash flow off this place, but he didn't have anything in reserves. So fix your personal financial situation, and then just move forward. There's never gonna be a right time or a right property or any of it.
Right. I love that. That's a great input. What is one key tool, source, or platform that you use frequently that can also help others?
I'm on BiggerPockets all the time.
BiggerPockets.com.
All the time, daily, probably multiple times a day. It's great. There's a lot of experience on there. For the most part, nobody's trying to sell you anything. I mean, there are a lot of real estate agents on there. I'm one of them. There's a lot of lenders on there. There's a lot of people looking for investors, but really 90% of the people on there are amazing people, and they're just there to help. There's guys that answer questions all day just for fun. I try to do the same. BiggerPockets is great, and if you're looking to get into residential real estate, get a hold of an agent and get on the MLS and just at least analyze some deals. Start looking at deals.
Yeah, and it's also helpful if you find an agent that actually deals with investment properties and investors, because not every one of them is going to be the same, and
no,
not everyone is going to be willing to do that either. And even if they would, which most will probably tell you that they would, and they'll help you out, but they're not going to be able to help you analyze it, because a lot of agents don't know the investment side of it. They'll know the traditional sales, but not the investment side of it, and it's totally different.
Most agents don't know anything about real estate investing.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
It's my experience. And a lot of them are learning or would like to. I was investing before I was an agent, and I've always been interested in investing. If you're an agent, you need to invest. You have no 401k, you have no retirement, you have some sort of advantage because you sometimes get in front of deals before other people. But if you're an agent, you're not investing, like, to all agents, get out there and start looking for a deal.
Yes, and that's one thing that's always has always been strange for me. It's like why aren't more agents involved in buying properties, for themselves, instead of just selling off, and they've come across properties that were good, that they had them in their hands, and they just sold it off to somebody else. It's like, especially during the last market cycle, it's like, why aren't you buying some for yourself? And they just don't have that mindset. They have that mindset. They have that grind out and go to work every single day and go work for a paycheck is kind of the mindset. And so they need to, change that mindset.
Yeah, I love to work, but I think I'm inherently lazy, and real estate investing offers me
I think we all are, yeah.
Yeah.
We all have a little laziness to us.
It just offers the promise of at some time I don't have to work if I don't want to. I don't think that'll ever be the case, but as an agent, I think you get caught up in making those quick bucks and making the $3,000 or $5,000 or $10,000 commission check and buying all this stuff, and really that's the biggest problem with our society right now is we keep buying more and more things. We buy a new car, a new house, a new watch. We just keep adding debt, and we add payments. So if you make 50 grand a year and you're spending 50 grand a year, you're going to get a raise to 70, and you're going to spend 70. And really, I grew up down the street from Papa John's, actually, in Louisville, Kentucky. And a lot of the people in that neighborhood were living paycheck to paycheck, but made an enormous amount of money. And I never wanted to live my life that way, because it just feels like a cage and you feel trapped. So
it's the rat race is what Kiyosaki calls it. So
yeah, absolutely.
Don't get, if you're in that, get out of it as soon as you can, guys.
Yeah.
Where can Commit to Wealth Nation go to connect with you and find out more about you?
BiggerPockets is probably the best place to talk about real estate. I'm also on LinkedIn and Facebook, and I'm on Instagram. I'm not on Twitter anymore. I try to keep my social media time pretty limited, just because I've got other stuff to do, and I don't find it highly productive to do anything but spend time doing marketing and stuff on those platforms. But I definitely connect with people and respond on them. So I'm just Jordan Moorhead on all those, and Moorhead is Moorhead.
Okay.
And spelled a little differently, but yeah, it's probably the best place to connect with me would be BiggerPockets.
Okay, guys. If you guys want to reach out to him, definitely reach out to him. Find him on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and BiggerPockets. Go there and check him out, and reach out to him. He's a great guy. And Jordan, well, I appreciate your time. Appreciate you sharing your information. Appreciate you sharing your properties and your experiences. And I wish you the best, man.
All right. Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it, Juan.
Yeah, no problem.
Yep.